Hi there, welcome to Homekeepers. What a privilege it is to sit in this chair and welcome you to this program. And you will not be sorry you tuned in today, I'll tell you that for sure. Carol Kent is here and her husband's always here too, and the two of them, I told the crew a while ago, you know, the energy level just goes up when these people are here. It's just such a great time, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but we'll probably get into it a little bit today. But how the Lord has put two ministries together. When Carol first started coming here, really didn't know that they had started this little bitty ministry in their home to try to help some of the prisoners. If you know her story, she has a son in prison for life. And Jesus told us we're supposed to visit those people. And I think he also meant for us to just do anything we could to help them in the name of the Lord. So anyway, the way these two, the name of their ministry is Speak Up for Hope. And ours is Homekeepers. And the way the Lord has brought those together just kind of gives you a nice warm feeling. We'll be talking about that. But also, so many of you know, she's a Christian author of thousands of books that have out there that she has written. And just a wonderful, wonderful source for you and for me to sit down and talk to her. So they are here today. And then I'm going to join Stephanie for Air Fryer Pickles. Now, Stephanie has been kind of giving us demonstrations on how to use an air fryer. And Brooke and I were just talking. We think we're going to get us one, get us a little one. The things she's got now, they're absolutely amazing, and they taste so good. Guess what we're fixing? Air fryer pickles. And I don't know, that doesn't just turn you on real big, but you ought to smell them. They're just wonderful. So we'll try one in a minute. But you know what makes you feel better than to clean out a closet? I can't think of anything right at the moment. And our books and so forth at Homekeepers, those shelves need to really be cleaned out. I've been thinking about it, and finally Wanda just went, boop, and she did it. It's huge, and so we're, a lot of books that we don't have enough of, we don't use anymore. And we found some more of my daughter's CD of just harp music, and it's called Unspoken Praise. And I thought, I think I'll offer those to the viewers again. In this world, we need them far more than we ever did when we offered them before. So if you want a copy of this to just feel the presence of the Lord and calm your nerves down and all that, there's nothing in the world like harp music. You can have it for $10, and you can write to us or call us. The address there is Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, and the 800 number 229-0059. And I believe this will be a huge blessing to your life. So we'll be glad to get it out to you. And now I'm over here with my teacher.
This is the first time I've ever done pickles, but they're delicious. I've already tried them. So good. So I have the air fryer preheated to 400, which turned off because I was waiting too long. Let me get that turned back on. And then it calls for 32 dill pickle chips.
But you don't have to sit and count them out.
It's just for the recipe. Yeah, so I have a half a cup of flour and some salt. I'm going to mix together in the first little pie dish.
I didn't know you did anything with pickles except put them on a hamburger.
So good. I love dill pickles. They're one of my favorites, so this is so good. Okay, I have in the second pan, I have 3 eggs, and you get the recipe for the amounts. It'll just be easier. I have pickle juice.
Pickle juice in the pickles. That makes perfect sense.
Garlic salt and cayenne pepper. Here you go. Thank you so much. That's in the second one. Which I couldn't.
Is that real hot pepper?
No, I couldn't even taste it in the first batch. So
okay.
You might be able to, but I couldn't. And then in this batch, you're going to put panko crumbs and the fresh dill. If you
so
would do
just
that.
spread it around here?
Yep, please.
You know, last week we were talking about, because you mentioned you couldn't taste the pepper in that.
Yeah.
We had a conversation about who are the people that put together a recipe, and that one we had required 1/8 teaspoon of sugar.
Yep.
Now, who in the world came up with that? But I just want to congratulate you, because it was delicious, and maybe that made a difference.
Yeah, okay. Okay, super simple. I have the air fryer preheated.
And this is fresh dill?
Fresh dill and panko crumbs. So this is much healthier than the dill pickles you get at a restaurant because they're deep fried, right?
Oh,
in a
really?
batter. Yeah. So if you just want to open that and just spray it a little bit for me, and then we're just going to take pickles.
I don't want to be stupid, but how do you open it? Oh,
There you go. Don't skip this part right here where you put the pickles on paper towels and get the liquid out, or you're going to be very sad that you have very soggy fried pickles.
now you have
Flour, salt, the egg mixture, and then the panko crumb mixture.
This is a rather large air fryer. Are they hard to clean? Or?
This is an 8-in-1 air fryer. If you want an air fryer, just get the air fryer. This
Oh, you can do anything in
steams,
it?
it slow cooks, it makes yogurt, it sears, it sautés, it broils, it dehydrates. You don't need all of
Yeah.
that. So we sprayed the little pan here. So it's flour, then egg, then panko. And this would be a great one to get your kids, your grandkids, your neighbor kids, any kids in the kitchen. This would be a blast.
I would like to know the person that came up with this recipe. I could live 300 years and not come up with
Somebody
it.
had the munchies, okay? That's all I'm saying. And they had pickles, and they had panko crumbs, and they're like, what can we do with this?
Well, they're very, very crispy, and they are not oily. They're
No,
not
that's why
greasy.
they're much healthier. And last week we made,
We made,
we're not paying attention, I'm sorry. You put it down, and then they put a camera on it, and then you moved it.
well, pardon me.
So last week we made fresh ranch.
fresh ranch
So we're
dressing.
having that. So
This is the recipe that had 1/8 of a teaspoon of sugar in it.
So you're going to air fry these at 400 degrees for about 8 minutes. What do you think? Can you taste the cayenne?
No,
If anybody can taste the
Yes,
cayenne,
I
it would
think
be
I can.
Arthelene Rippy.
there's not any grease in that at all.
It is so good.
Congratulations, whoever
It is
put this
so
recipe
good.
together.
Should I say that one more time? No.
And this is the homemade ranch dressing we
Yeah,
made.
so if you want that one, ask for that one too when you ask for the pickle one. That would be very good.
I wonder if all those people out in TV land, raise your hand if you got an air fryer.
Right.
They're really
They're big
getting
right
popular.
now.
Yeah.
That's because it's so healthy. So much better for you.
Well, also things don't cook that long.
We made shrimp, we make cauliflower, and I make wings all the time at home, and they are delicious and so much cheaper than a restaurant.
So if you would like this recipe, air fried pickles, we'll be glad to send it to you. And there's several ways you can get it. That'll come up on your screen. So you choose the one that's best for you. And we'll be glad to get it out to you. And if you've never met Carol Camp before, you are in for a treat, but a lot of people do know about
They're
her.
uppers. That's what Arthelene said. They are uppers.
Yes, that's true, isn't it? When they walk in the door,
Yes,
it's like,
every-
I'm
the
glad
whole-
you're here.
yes.
Yeah. So, okay, that's coming up, and then I'm going to talk to Carol about the pandemic in the prison. Doesn't that sound like a nightmare? So
Awful.
she's got a report on that. Okay, stay with us.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, you may receive it by contacting us through social media as listed on the screen. When requesting a copy through the mail, be sure to include a self-addressed stamped envelope. Thank you, and please know we always appreciate hearing from our viewers.
Okay, glad you're back. I'm giving you an ovation here.
Well,
Yes.
Arthelene, it is always such a treasure to us to be able to be in your studio here at Homekeepers and to hang out with your amazing production team. And we just love your spirit. We love that you love Jesus and that you love helping people.
Yeah, there's an instant bond
There is.
communication, and we do have a wonderful crew here. I'm not kidding. They love the Lord, and they just are there for any situation. I'm going to give you a gift.
Oh, I'm so thrilled.
Now that's just harp music. It's not orchestrated.
This is the kind of music you play when you have people over for dinner, and you have that wonderful, beautiful music that doesn't interrupt your thoughts or flow of conversation, but it soothes your soul. So thank you for that.
Oh, we're going to talk about the pandemic in a minute, but let me tell you who really got hit hard, maybe the hardest, were musicians. And I've thought so much about these wonderful music ministries that go from church. They haven't had a concert in a year.
I know, and speakers as well have had a very hard time, and that's my community of people who do retreat and conference ministry, and so my heart has really hurt for them. They have lost finances, they've lost opportunities to use their gifts in a public way, but they also have discovered the virtual world of being able to speak and lead from home, which isn't quite the same as a live audience. So it's been tough.
But I'm planning a program on the wonderful benefits of the kingdom that the pandemic has been.
Oh, yes.
And that'll be another show. But back to the musician, my daughter was traveling with Josh Brogan when it hit, cut out half of the concerts. And Johnny Mathis has been postponed 3 times. Hang on, Johnny's coming. He gives a wonderful concert.
Oh, yes.
And so I think we've been so blessed here because Bob DeAndre, our founder president, said, if you want to come to work, you can. If you want to wear a mask, he left it up to us. And so I don't have that sense that other people have suffered because I did come to work. But what we're going to talk about with her in just a second is the pandemic and the prison. And just those 2 words together give me a nightmare. Because you have a situation where it could blow up any time anyway.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But before that, you have a conference coming up next month. And you had it last year just by Zoom, but isn't it wonderful you can have it either way you want now?
Yes, we can. And Arthelene, the conference is called the Speak Up Conference. And I know I've been coming here and sharing my story with you and with you viewers out there. And I know we have so many people in your wonderful viewing audience who have a story to tell, and they'd like to write about it or they'd like to speak about it in the form of a testimony. So we offer a writing track and a speaking track. This year it will be virtual, but you get very good links so that you can zoom in on 5 keynote sessions and panel discussions. And then people can decide if they would most want information from their breakout sessions on speaking or writing. And if you are related to someone who is incarcerated, Arthelene, we have had some donations that have made scholarshiping available for those of you who have loved ones who are behind bars. And if you know you have a story to tell and that describes you, someone you love is in prison or jail, and you know God is stirring in your heart to write your story or tell your story, please contact us. You'll see the website on the screen. There will be an email address you can link to, and let us know if you have financial need, because we would love to provide some of those scholarships to those of you who, like me, have someone you love behind bars.
And that information is up on your screen, and the time is coming around pretty quickly. It's next month. So I hope that you will take advantage of that. Now, when we were kind of getting together on the things we were going to talk about, which we don't have any problem with that, but what would the Lord want you? And when you mentioned the pandemic and the prison, I thought, boy, emotions run so high there 24/7.
Yes.
And I went over this with someone the other day who had a prison ministry, that what about these 3 things? And your son Jason could probably give us some information, and God is really using him in there. Boy, none of our sorrows are wasted.
No,
are
they aren't.
But a lot of them have very little education. There's some mental problems, maybe drugs and things, and fatherlessness.
Oh, yes.
I just would like to have just the percentage on that. So you've got that anyway. You've got men locked up, and now I suppose they were taking extra precautions.
Oh, yes.
And so did Jason tell you what it was like to be in prison with a pandemic going on?
It was hard. It was so hard. And Arthelene, when all of this started, I think every one of us thought, hey, maybe it'll be 2-3 months and life will get back to normal. And we had no idea that now, almost a year and a half later, we are still getting through the ramifications of it. But when the pandemic first started, no visitation was held at all. And that went for 7 months. So think about it. In Jason's prison, there are a lot of dads. So 7 months without seeing or hugging their children. It's so difficult. And then finally, they were able to have some visitation with plastic shields at your table. You had to wear a full mask, no embracing, and you would try to talk through the mask, through the plastic, while everybody else in the room was doing the same thing. So the volume levels were up, and that made visitation so hard. And now, just in the last 3 weeks, we have the plastic shields down and no more mask restriction because enough people have been vaccinated. But it was so difficult for visitation. But what happened inside the prison during this time is that the men were often locked down, and their meals would be delivered to them on styrofoam trays, so they don't have any kind of a chow hall in their lodging facility. So they were literally eating their 3 meals on their bunks from their plastic trays.
Oh my.
And then they were not allowed to go outside more than 2 or 3 times a month for a long period. And can you imagine men who are living very close to each other, not being able to be outside, to run, to let off steam, to play basketball, or to do anything involving regular physical activity, and tensions would just skyrocket. And he said, apart from Jesus holding it all together, I mean, nobody can even begin to explain how chaotic that could get, and how quickly tension would rise when one little thing would be the trigger that would launch a fight between
Like throwing a match
men.
on a...
Oh, it is, on some, just something that is so brittle, and it would just explode. And so that was very hard. Then all of their programs were stopped. The chapel was turned into an infirmary, so there were no church services. Basically, no volunteers came in, and many people forget how important the volunteers are.
Right.
And you might have been listening to Arthelene and me for many months now, and I just want to say thank you to you if you volunteer in a prison or a jail ministry. My son tells me, Arthelene, that some of those volunteers who come in get as close to him as a brother would in terms of encouraging him, praying with
Praise
him,
the
and
Lord.
for him. I love those volunteers. And so they didn't have any of that. It was so hard for them just to keep going. And then you can imagine the discouragement and even the depression that can come on a large number of men who aren't able to be physically with their families at visitation and aren't able to get exercise.
I want to pick up on your remarks about the volunteers. I think those people are going to be at the head of the line in heaven.
I agree.
And television hosts are going to be at the very end. But remember Murph the Surf?
Yes, yes.
Very famous prisoner. I interviewed him several times. I interviewed him when he was still in a halfway house.
Wow.
And very, very likable, very colorful. And they called him Murph the Surf. That ought to tell you something. He was this gorgeous surfer from probably California. But and they put him in jail for a long time. I think he stole a diamond that they said couldn't be stolen. It was so well, restricted to get close to anything.
Yes.
But he said he used to just sit and make fun of those Christians that would come in all the time. He said they could have been at the beach, they could have been doing and he thought they were just nuts. And then one day he's got to thinking, he said, they keep coming back. They keep coming. That's what got him saved.
Yes.
And so if there's anything to just encourage,
yes.
that would be the group.
Well, and I love the fact that sometimes people who look so hard on the outside, and inmates could often fit that category of,
Yeah.
especially in a maximum security prison, they look very tough. but they are watching, they're observing, they're seeing how consistent the lives are of those around them who've claimed to be Christians. And I'll never forget speaking at a prison that wasn't where my son was. And after I spoke, the inmates were all lined up to greet me. And boy, talk about handshakes. They were major handshakes. And one young man came up and he said, Mrs. Kent, I was in the prison that your son is in. And he witnessed to me about Jesus. And he said, I totally rejected it. I was in a cult. I didn't care about Christianity. And he said, since I've come to this new prison, I have made a commitment to Jesus Christ.
Praise the
Would
Lord.
you tell Jason he planted the seeds that have now borne fruit in me coming to faith in Jesus? Tell him I am so grateful. We never know what can happen. And I think when we are in hard times, there's something about that makes us think about faith. It makes us think, how can I ever find hope again? And we have been discovering that. And so during this time of the pandemic, Speak Up for Hope has had an opportunity to do some unusual things. Now, one of the things is that we were not able to physically be there.
Right.
You know, we always supply games to the visitation areas. Well, no visitation was happening. So we thought, how can we be creative with how we help the inmates? So we discovered the maximum amount of money that we could put in Jason's account so that he could help other inmates who were discouraged and depressed and feeling so down. And so he was able to distribute help to some of the inmates, a few candy bars, some
Yes.
treats, and it meant so much to them. Plus, it demonstrates that Christians give and that Christians care, and that meant so much to the men. Then Gene and JP always talk about the books that are needed, and that was the one thing we could get in during the pandemic, and that was great reading material. And so we became a source and a supply
Praise the Lord.
for so many inmates of great books. And when you're locked up, a book can take you on a vacation or on an adventure or into a spiritual deep place that you've never been before. So that was an incredible blessing.
To any new viewers, I feel like we are joined together, our ministries. We got Homekeepers here, and I can put a spotlight on Speak Up for Hope. And that was, if you knew how God is using Jason being in prison for the kingdom, you might weep for sure. But I've been able to tell you about Speak Up for Hope, and it's so hands-on. You mentioned you put more money in Jason's account. Is there a limit that you can put in the account?
There is a limit every month of what we can put in, but the other thing we've been able to do is to find out who else is trustworthy, who will share with others. So we have
Got to be careful there. This is prison.
Right. You need trustworthy believers to do that. And so it is such a joy because Jason knows these men on the inside. He knows who is trustworthy. And we were just with him yesterday. And he said, you won't believe what we're doing tonight. He said, a couple of the guys and I got together and we're making dessert for all 70 men in our dormitory. And you know,
Sounds like fun.
They are creative cooks. I mean, they know how to get these little containers of cookies and they can turn it into a brownie mix. And then they have figured out how to take hot chocolate that's powdered and make it into a fudge sauce.
I'd love to have them on here.
Oh, you would love it. They could be, I mean, Stephanie might be rivaled for the cooking segment. You know, I mean, they're so creative, and they can make something that tastes as delicious as a hot brownie sundae, and they love it.
I want to revisit this a little bit because I didn't know it till she told me, and I have personally put money in accounts, but a prisoner can have an account, and I've also heard statistics that when somebody's in there 6 years, usually after 6 years, there's no visits, there's no cards, they're forgotten. So with an account, you can put, Jason could probably guide that, but you can put money in a prisoner's account, and this doesn't sound like anything to us, but he could buy with that a few snacks. He could buy some hygiene products and
Tennis shoes.
Tennis shoes. That's really important.
T-shirts.
T-shirts. That is so hands-on. And if you have nothing and nobody comes to visit you and nobody sends you a letter, think how an upper would be to say, okay, there's $25 at your disposal.
Yes, yes.
So I hope you write down that website, Speak Up for Hope. And I hope that the Lord will really prompt you. This is something that's so encouraging. And they know it's from Christians. They know it's from Christians,
Yes,
for
they
sure.
do.
Okay, so you didn't get to see Jason for how long?
7 months with no visits, and then finally, toward the end of October of this past year, we were able to have the very restricted visits. But children, can you imagine children going into a prison where they have to be masked up with all of these restrictions, no games or coloring books or food, no food could be purchased.
And speak up.
And to have to speak
Offers those
loudly
sometimes.
enough.
Speak Up for Hope
Oh, yes.
buys those things.
Oh, yes, we do. And so very few children came because it was too difficult for them to sit quietly. They weren't allowed to run around, and it was very restrictive. And so I would just say, would you pray for those families? Pray for the children of inmates and for the spouses of inmates, because they are now getting to know each other again. And I'm going to weep right now. 2 weeks ago, I had just walked into the prison visitation area, Arthelene, and I saw a little boy who hadn't seen his daddy since the beginning of the pandemic. And he went racing for him, and his daddy caught him up in his arms, and he twirled him around, and he just couldn't quit kissing his father's head. And it was so
Praise the Lord.
precious. And I said to Jason, honey, did you see that reunion of this little boy and his daddy? He said, Mom, what you don't know is that inmate is not the biological father of that little boy, but he loves him as if he is his own. And there is a bond there that is so remarkable. And it
Praise
just
the Lord.
took my breath away. It
Yeah.
was so precious.
Wow. We are out of time, but thank God for that stepfather, whoever it is. He's making a difference in that young man's life. And, maybe prison has been a part of your life, a loved one, or maybe personally, whatever. But we have prayer partners standing by right now, and this pandemic has been so hard on this kind of a ministry. But never fear, the kingdom of the Lord is going to survive. It's going to prosper. And I think that stories will come out about how God used this to really advance his kingdom. And we need to be reminded over and over and over, it's about his kingdom, not ours. We are out of time, but join me next time, remembering there's absolutely no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.